What's up, everybody? Bootsy Greenwood here, and today I want to talk a little bit about a great thinker named Gurdjieff. He had also a student named Ouspensky, and if you've ever tried to read some of these guys' work, it's a little bit difficult to navigate, so I wanted to kind of take these ideas and break them down. The main idea that Gurdjieff really is trying to put forward is our own evolution. The evolution of man is what he would call it. And the whole idea really comes back to self-remembering, remembering who we are, understanding our identity. And that's really the point of this video. That's what's going to set it apart from a lot of the other stuff that I've done. Now, what's cool about Gurdjieff and what's very interesting about him is he actually traveled around. He went out into the East. He was a Russian guy. He went to India. He went to where the Sufis, Iran, Iraq, and these types of places, and checked out some different ashrams, learned a lot, brought that knowledge back to Russia, and started teaching his own sort of modality, what he would call psychology. And his psychology is about evolution, becoming really our true self and understanding what our identity really is. What's fun and maybe a little challenging about Gurdjieff is that he starts with a problem. So it's kind of fire and brimstone if you want to look at it that way. And he makes these blanket statements. And some of these I have up on the board here. He says, man has no will. Man has no consciousness. Man is a machine. I know all the women who are watching this video are like, yeah, well, so far, man is a machine. But he's talking obviously about humanity, right? And these are sort of older terms. And man has no I, right? He has no identity. He has no idea of himself. He's not aware of himself, and he can't remember himself. And this goes for all of us, right? Who are trying to seek and learn about who we really are. So Gurdjieff talks a lot about this, and starting with the problem is kind of cool, right? Buddha also started with the problem. He said, there is suffering. That's what he started with. He started with the problem. There is suffering. Okay, well, we can acknowledge that, and we can kind of agree, and we can say, all right, there is suffering, so now what? Okay, we can go from there. Man has no will. Okay, well, now what? Man has no I. Now what? Man is a machine. Now what? And so I think the big takeaway from what Gurdjieff's talking about is this spectrum, this idea of man having no I, okay? No identity, no sense of self, okay? There's a spectrum, and our awareness is constantly being pinged around from this to that to over here. We're having these experiences. We're having these moments where we're really being different versions of ourselves constantly and never really waking up to who we actually are, okay? And so the idea that he talks about, that he's talking about, the problem is really in the personality of the person, okay? The personality. Personality of the person is who we think of ourselves as, right? This object. This object is not the I that we truly are. He says that, within us is this perfect person, this awareness of self, this state that understands who we are, this higher self, and it's always there. It never, ever goes away, but we only catch these fleeting glimpses of it. And so that's kind of our problem, is that we know that there's this higher self. We know that there's this true version of ourself, this identity. And what we choose to identify with is often personality, the object that we are, physical characteristics and components of who we are, and not what he would call our essence. So to truly understand who we are, we want to understand who we are at the deepest level, who we naturally are, who we embody, who we just can't help but be. And the more that we can understand this aspect of ourselves from the subject point of view, the better we're going to be able to evolve and the better we're going to be able to truly attain that self-remembrance. Now, some of the cool things that he talks about as far as understanding ourselves and ways that we can understand ourselves. First of all, he says that we have three main states, which are basically, sleeping, awake, and like a deep sleep. But there's also a fourth state that he talks about, and this is very Eastern. I'm sure he picked this up somewhere when he was traveling, is understanding our true self, this consciousness that we can truly self-remember, actualize, identify with. And this is known as a lot of different, terms and things like that, but it's that awareness. And he says that none of us could stare at a watch and self-remember for 2 minutes, right? Like we can't. We lack the capacity to truly master our attention enough to be able to stare at a watch and be present and be conscious for 2 minutes. And that's a problem, right? That's us going between these different spectrums, right? Like over here to over here. These are the senses of I. There's no true I. There's no true self. There's no true understanding. If we could, when we are completely present, we're at this essence level and we're able to embody ourselves and experience who we truly are. But most of the time, we're here on personality. So what he talks about is choosing and how man has no choice. Okay, this is going to sound very familiar. Versus reacting. Choosing is being present in the moment, not being thrown off by circumstance, and being able to be in the moment. And one of the things that he talks about is how our different states get messed with and how those are all opportunities for us to wake up and identify with our true self, our essence, our true I. So one of the things that he talks about is running for your life. He talks about running from an elephant in rut. It's very specific, but running for your life. Anytime that you get mad, anytime that you get triggered, anytime that you get upset or very sad or lonely, these are all key critical moments that we can use and leverage to go introverted, okay, instead of extroverted, to focus on the subject in these moments instead of the object. And that will give us much more awareness and give us a closer glimpse into who we truly are, who we identify as, and who we are at a very natural level. I start with, you're perfect, there's nothing wrong with you, you're perfect exactly as you are, which is true on this spectrum here, on this part of the spectrum. The other part of the spectrum is this personality. And to think about this personality, right, this is what makes us a robot. It's the programs. It's the people who have told us what we are. It's the things that we think we should be in order to present ourselves in society and to give ourselves this acceptance that everyone else is going to give us whenever we appease the social constructs and be that particular type of person. But what we want to understand is that there's so much more to us at the essence level, or at the God self, or at the eternal, the deep self. And that is really what Gurdjieff is talking about in the beginning of this journey. So what we want to understand, first and foremost, and I want to keep this as kind of an introductory video. I want to keep this kind of short. I'm going to go through his consciousness model in the later videos and going to go more in depth into what he's talking about. But what we want to understand is really the difference between ourselves at an essence level, who we truly are, and learning to embody that as opposed to the personality that we think we are, that other people have projected onto us, that we go into, the mask that we wear. And the best way to do that through self-remembering is meditation. That's that fourth state, that self-awareness. And that's something that we can always practice, and something that we want to be able to, for longer and longer durations of time, become identified with. Now, there's one really cool story that I'll finish with, and then we'll get out of here, where Gurdjieff is talking about a man being chased by a tiger. And the man is being chased by a tiger, and he runs and he runs and he runs and he runs off a cliff. and he grabs a branch and he is holding onto the branch. And so he's in this state of frenetic, freaked out energy. He's, he's going nuts in his mind. And he notices as he's there hanging on by a limb, a blueberry. And he takes the blueberry and he puts the blueberry in his mouth and he eats the blueberry. And he has this amazing experience with it. It tastes like nothing he's ever experienced before. He truly becomes one with the berry. And that's a really great example of how to take some of these frenetic states. What are your triggers? Notice what triggers you. Maybe take a little list, write those things down. And when you're in those states, when you're upset, when you're freaking out, when you're stressed, those are the times to, hey, now's the time to wake up. We could create so much more leverage and get a deeper glimpse into ourselves and who we truly are at an essence level by doing those things. So I hope this video is helpful. I'm going to do a whole series on this. It's probably going to be at least 3 or 4 videos, and I'm going to map out Gurdjieff's entire model of consciousness and these different states that can be attained. But this is the basic idea, starting with a problem. We're machines, we're robots, we're programs, but beneath that, there's something that we are that is truly undescribable, undefinable, and at an essence level, that's what we want to understand and connect with. Not everybody's going to be able to do this, at least not in this lifetime, but if you want to put the effort forth, Gurdjieff says that you can actually find your true self. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. Check out our podcast, bluecollarmystics.org, and you can find me at bootsygreenwood.com. Give some free different, I've got a couple of different freebies that you can grab there. But I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching this episode, or whatever it is, this little clip, this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.